in this video, what I'm going to do is put a light actor in the level, and this light actor will basically change color as the level is being played. So the first thing I need to do is I need to have an actor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a new folder, and I'm going to call this actors. And I'm going to create a blueprint class that is an actor, and I'm going to call this lantern. Going to open this up, and here we have the empty actor. So I want to add a couple of components. The first component I'm going to add is just a cylinder, which is just going to act as the base of the lantern. Basically, this is just a substitute for the static mesh. Just going to scale that down and scale it back up again, just to kind of represent the pole that the light is on. And I'm going to make that the scene root. So then I'm going to add another component, which is going to be a point light. And I'm going to place this wherever the center of the light would be, and I'm going to turn the attenuation down probably to a few hundred. I'm going to compile that, and then I'm going to close the window, and I should be able to just drag and drop this lantern into the scene. And there we have it. There's a lantern. If I hit play, we can see we have a lantern. We also have collision on the lantern as well, and that's something you need to consider if you want. If you don't want it, then make sure that you turn off the collision. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go into something called the event graph, and we want an event to happen every single frame, when we call these ticks. So I'm just going to delete those other nodes because I don't need them. And you can see here this node is disabled and will be called if you drag a pin off. So I want to control the point light. So I'm just going to drag and drop that in here, and I'm going to drag from this, and I want to change the color. So I'm going to set the light color, and I'm going to drag and drop into there. So we go from this pin to this pin, and this is called the execution line. So every single tick, this will get executed and it will change the light color. So what should happen is the light needs to change its intensity through a series of color values, and what we need for that is we need a base color, and then we need how much it's changing, like an additional color on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off this color node, and it says new light color, and I'm going to promote this to a variable, and I am going to call this first variable base color. And then I want a new color, and this color is going to be added to it, so it will increase the intensity of that light. If I want to create a variable, I can just go here and click variable, and it will come up with a new variable. I want this variable to be a linear color. So if I type linear color, you can see that I can select a linear color, and it becomes blue just like the base color. So it's the same type. Again, what I'm going to call this is I'm going to call this the add color. And I can drag and drop that into here, and in this case I'm going to get that value. I also want to set up these values, and you can see that it doesn't have a default value yet. I need to compile to give it a default value. So I'm going to compile the scene, and I now can set default values for the base color and the add color. So my base color I'm going to turn into some reddish yellow color, and my additional color, oh no, I'm specifying what it is. My additional color is basically going to be a fairly brightish red. It can be almost pretty much pure white because it's just going to add on top. And what I want to do is I want to add them together. But if I add them together, what will happen is it will just change the once, and then we won't see any other change. What I want to do is take this and I want to multiply it by a random value. So I'm going to do a multiply linear color with float. And then this wants to be a random value. And I'm going to use random float because a random float is between 0 and 1. You can, if you wanted this to be of a different value, because you can see here it says returns a value between 0 and 1. If I wanted maybe between 1 and 2, or maybe I want between 0 and 3, I would use a different random sequence. So if I drag off here and type random from range, you can see I can set the min and max values. So if the rate of change isn't enough, you can change this, the way this works. Then what I want to do is add them together. So I'm going to add 2 linear colors and push that into the new light color and compile this. So now what will happen is on every tick, that's just after every frame, and before the next frame, we will set the light color of the point light to a new color that is both the base color plus the additional color times a random number, add them together, put it into the light color. So by default we can't see anything going on, but if I hit play, you can see that our light is changing color. Now if that color change is too rapid, we can adjust how many times it updates, or the delay between those updates. So let's just change that lantern, and we can change the delay after the event tick. So you can see here I have event tick interval, so it says tick interval, and what I can do is I can change that tick interval to slow that down, or I could just change how subtle the change was, or there are some other more sophisticated ways of changing between values. If you can get this working and want more subtle mechanisms, let me know and I will explain it. So let's just tweak the event tick. So what I'm going to do is drag off and then go to event tick. Is it tick? Is it tick? Tick interval, that's it. Set active tick interval. So its target is itself. If you don't put anything into the target, it just assumes that it's talking about itself. I'm just going to drag off, and then I'm going to go rand float from range. And this has to be fairly small numbers. So I'm going to change the interval somewhere between 0.0, these are basically times, and maybe 0.1. Fairly subtle changes in the interval tick. So that's just a little delay after the tick time. I'm going to compile that. and I'm going to play. And now you can see that we just get a little bit more randomness to the flickering. What would also be nice is to be able to change the different light colors from within the actors. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expose these values. And the way to do that is just to click on the little eye icon and recompile. And what happens now, if I've got this lantern selected in the world, you can see that these values are now exposed. So let's have two lights next to each other. And I'm just going to change this light to a pretty deep red. And I'm going to turn the flicker down a bit in intensity. And then I'm going to play. So you can see now we have different colored lights. Just going to move that so that we can see better. So we now have different lighting. I think this one is still a bit strong. Going to turn that value down even more. There we go. There's a little bit more. So now we have actors and we can copy them and we can change the base color and the add color.